Everybody, how are you? Welcome back to art class. So this next project is going to take us a little bit longer than normal, so you're going to have 2 weeks to work on it. This week, the first kind of phase of this project is going to be a lot of planning, a lot of coming up with ideas, sketching out some of those ideas, making lists about those ideas, and then next week you'll take all that planning, all that hard work you do this time, and turn it into what we're gonna finally make our final project. And before we go any further, let's just go ahead and say it. That final project, you're gonna turn yourself into a superhero. I love superheroes. It's like one of my favorite things. Comic books are one of my favorite things. Superhero movies. When I was a kid, your age, actually younger, I think probably I was the first one had already come out. There was a series of Superman movies that came out with a guy named Christopher Reeve playing Superman, and I thought it was the coolest thing I'd ever seen in my entire life. So I started real young. Now we have like a pretty good amount of superhero movies in our world, right? It seems like almost every other movie that comes out is like a Marvel Avengers movie, something like that. So they're all around us. What you're gonna do is you're going to pretend, unless you're not pretending and you actually are a superhero, and if you are, that's awesome. But for a lot of us normal humans, you're going to be pretending that you are a superhero. So when I say that you are a superhero, I mean you're your own superhero. This is not me saying I'm Superman and drawing a picture of me in a Superman costume, even though that would be awesome. And I would love to be Superman, and I've already got my Clark Kent glasses to disguise my identity. That's not what we're doing. You're coming up with your own superhero, brand new, completely out of your brain. Now, when we think about superhero powers and things like that, there's only so many to go around, right? I'm not going to say that you can't choose flying to be your superpower just because Superman does it. But that's kind of where the similarities need to end, and the rest of the ideas, the superhero's name, the superhero's costume, things like that, needs to come out of your own imagination. Now, if you do think of some superpowers that you would like that don't exist, that's fine too. But if you need to borrow some ideas from superheroes that already exist, that's fine. So this week, we said we're going to come up with kind of our plans. We're going to kind of brainstorm a little bit. We're going to think about what kind of powers we would want to have if we were a superhero, how we would use those powers. We're going to think about things like what would we want our costume to look like, maybe what your disguise would be for your normal life. Like Clark Kent is a reporter, and he walks around in glasses and a suit, and somehow no one can tell that he's Superman until he takes off those glasses. So just kind of those basic ideas is going to be what you think of, what you come up with this week. Now, if you want to start drawing some ideas, that's fine, but remember, the final one, that's what you'll focus on next week. So one of the important things that we think of when we think of a superhero is their logo. So a logo is like a symbol that helps us recognize something. If we think of a Nike shoe, we think of the swoosh. We think of the little check mark looking thing, right? So superheroes will usually, not all of them, usually have some sort of a logo. So if we look over here, we will see some that we recognize. Some have letters, some have symbols, some have patterns, some have a combination of all of those. If we look at this one here, we can tell pretty quickly that it is our buddy Superman. It's got an S. Now, for you nerds out there, you know that later in life they decided to not say that's an S anymore and that it's some Kryptonian symbol that means hope, but it's an S, and S stands for Superman. Our next one, what do we think of when we see a bat on a superhero? Batman, right? So these symbols can be incredibly simple. They can have a lot to do with the person, or your person, or nothing at all. This next one here, Wonder Woman. Now, if we look closely at this logo, from far away, it might, if you just kind of glance at it quickly, we might see wings, we might think of a bird or whatever, but as you focus on it, you can tell that it's two W's, right? For Wonder Woman. So even though this one is a letter or two letters, like Superman's S, it's a little more complicated. It's got a little more going on. Like we said, though, not all superheroes have logos on their uniforms. So like our guy Thor here, we know he's Thor because he looks like Thor because he's got a hammer. But there's nothing on his costume like advertising the fact that Thor's here to save the day. Your superhero, though, will be one of the ones that has a logo. So before we go any further and talk about anything else, I'm going to show you the superhero that I came up with for myself. So here he is. So here we've got Art Man, because I'm real creative and couldn't come up with a better idea than something that had to do with art, because, well, I'm an art teacher, but you know that, and I like art, which you also probably know. So Art Man's superpowers, he has a magical, or maybe cosmic, or something special about it, paintbrush, and he can paint anything he wants and then it'll become real. So let's say he's trying to chase down some bank robbers, he can paint a motorcycle in the air real quick and it becomes a motorcycle that he can hop on and chase after those bad guys. So let's talk about the logo. Here's a closer version of that. This has that paintbrush on it, and in the background we see something that kind of looks like a sun. Landscapes are an important part of art, so that's why I chose to add something kind of natural in the background there. So the colors of our superhero Art Man, they are the primary colors that we know from art class are important. So I kind of tried to tie a bunch of different art things into the idea for this one. So there we go. If I was a superhero, I would be Art Man. Now, a lot of those ideas had to do with art. I kind of picked a theme. You don't really have to, but it might be an easier way to go for you. You might want to come up with a theme for your superhero and then work off of that. The colors on your uniform, we would call that a color scheme. So maybe that has to do with your theme. Mine did. If we think of Batman, his uniform is mostly like black and gray, dark colors, because he usually does a lot of his work at nighttime. So color scheme is an important thing to start thinking about. What kind of powers you have is an important thing to start thinking about. How those powers work is an important thing to start thinking about. So this week is all about coming up with those ideas. You can do that however you want. It might be helpful to make lists. It might be helpful to sketch out ideas, to draw them, kind of quickly. Don't put like all your effort into it, because this again won't be the final thing that you're turning in. The one big thing that I do want you to work on this week, I would like you to draw a large version of your superhero's logo, because that'll really kind of help us understand what's going on with your superhero. And a lot of these superheroes, they might end up being kind of far away on our paper, and you might not get like a really good detailed look at the logo on their uniform. So it'll be nice to have this as well. That's it, my friends. There's not really a like follow along and draw part to this week, because it's all about you. It's all about coming up with your ideas. So remember, last time. You are a superhero. It's your own brand new, first time we've ever seen it on Earth superhero. Whatever powers you want, whatever you want him or her to do. Only thing I would say, just like always, nothing violent, nothing gross. But other than that, be as creative as you want. Next week, we won't have a very long video. We will talk just a little bit next week about people, about drawing proportions correctly on people. But that won't take a whole lot of time because we don't really expect these to look perfect, right? Because we're all trying our best, and maybe drawing people and drawing superheroes and stuff like that is new to a lot of us. So that's it. Hope everybody's doing well. Hope you have a good week coming up with a lot of awesome ideas for your superhero, and I will see you guys next week. Bye.